think we're going to go right into our next committee. Would you please, I guess, pass the gavel over to Governor Edwards to chair the Trustee Nomination and Board Procedure Committee.
Thank you. Mikey, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Duncan is not here. Ms. Parker?
Present.
Mr. Stavros?
Here.
Mr. Tripp?
Here.
Mr. Edwards, you have a forum.
Thank you. For the benefit of our new board members, for the last 2.5 years, we have been defining and refining the process that we use for selection of our board of trustees. As you probably know, each university has 13 trustees, 6 of which are appointed by the governor, 5 by the board of governors. Then there's a student representative and a faculty representative. Most of us believe that one of the most important things that we do is the selection of our representatives on these individual boards, because we delegate to them the authority to actually operate each of our universities. With that said, last year we faced the daunting task of appointing 21 new trustees at one time. Prior to that, the entire committee would review and interview the applicants. Under Dr. Zachariah's leadership, we adopted a policy where we would have at least 2 members of the committee assigned to each of our 11 universities, and in turn they would review the applications and would interview and then make recommendations back to our committee to recommend to the full board. Following that procedure, we will go into the University of West Florida's vacancies, but prior to that, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the October 22nd, 2009 meeting?
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Passed. A motion for the December 8th, 2009 minutes.
So moved.
So moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Minutes are approved. Okay, the 2 governors that have been assigned to the University of West Florida are Governor Duncan and Governor Tripp. You had previously heard that Governor Duncan is not able to be with us today, so I will turn it over now to Governor Tripp to report for them.
Thank you, Governor.
University of West Florida had 8 applicants, and they were excellent. Some, as based on my experience, were probably a little stronger than others, but the process is working, and what we see coming out of our notification and our publication is that the community is interested, and there are good applicants coming forth. Out of the 8, I decided that there were 4 that I thought were probably the top 4, and so I made an attempt to interview each of those. I was able to interview 3 of the 4. One of the gentlemen was on an Episcopal mission out of the country and was not going to be available for 2 weeks, so I was not able to interview him. The 3 that I did interview, John O'Sullivan, and he was also recommended by President Bentz, and so he's well known to the university. He's a CPA. The firm is O'Sullivan and Creel. He's been active with the university. He's served on their foundation board of trustees. He served on the College of Business Advisory Council and their presidential search committee, and he was selected as a foundation fellow at the University of West Florida. Probably talked with him for about an hour. He is a charming person, has the ability and the intellect to serve, has the interest to serve, and so he was one of them that I was able to talk with. The second applicant in my order was Michael Stamatolis, if I'm pronouncing that right, you know.
Correct.
Yes. Michael went to the University of Florida, is a pharmacist, Very engaging individual, to be frank with you. Interestingly enough, as during this hour conversation, Michael told me that he knew John O'Sullivan because they had played golf together, and the difference in the game was O'Sullivan is apparently a very large individual who hits the ball a long way, but not necessarily in the same fairway. While Michael is a small, older fellow who hits the ball a short way, but he can find it each time. So we had, and neither of them knew that the other was applying. So that was interesting. Michael Stamatolis has served on the State of Florida Pharmacy Board. He now has a consulting business in Pensacola, and he consults with many institutions that need pharmacy licensing, etc. So qualified individual, very engaging, and has a lot of interest in the University of West Florida. The third applicant that I was able to reach is Albert Ketterer, and Albert is a teacher at Santa Rosa County at the Hobbs Middle School. Prior to that, he was in the military. He was a Marine pilot, and came out and has a love of teaching, a love of math, and is highly regarded in his profession. And you know, the three of them were so good that it's just a shame that we didn't have 3 or 4 spots. Spent quite a bit of time with him talking. We had to shorten it a little bit because he was right in the middle of the FCAT tests, so he was running in and out of that. But good individual. And the fourth one is John Griffing. John is the gentleman who was on an Episcopal mission and out of the country. He came to Pensacola as president of the Pensacola Chamber of Commerce. He's been on the Business School Advisory Board. He's an active realtor, does some work with the university in helping them, I think, as they look for lease property and things of that nature. And those are the 4 that I thought were outstanding. At the end of the day, I think John O'Sullivan III would be my recommendation to this board. And John is the CPA. He'll bring that ability to your Board of Trustees. And we had the recommendation before was a CPA, and for the new board members, what happened is we recommended a gentleman, and once he realized that he could not be on the CPA state board as well as the Board of Trustees, he determined that it was probably in his best interest to stay on that state board. So we had to start the process all over again. So that's my recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. One of the things for the new members, again, when we look at applications, we also look at the makeup of the existing board. We think it's important that there be a balance, diversity, race, of gender, and of occupation, because it's important, frankly, to have a CPA on most boards because of the auditing function and of the financial function. So, President Judy II, do you have any comments you wish to make?
No, I support this. Mr. O'Sullivan has been very helpful to the university. In fact, he's been a mediator in a local project and volunteers for things like that. And his approach, even though I think he's in the top 30, his accountant firm is in the country, he loves the University of West Florida, and it turned his life around as a young man, and has been giving back to that university for a long time. And he is a definite asset to us, and this would be the capstone of his contribution to his university, and we already know he'll be helpful.
Okay, Gus?
I'd like to mention that to the new members, the new board, the governors, thoroughness that Governor Tripp went into this to make this determination.
Yes.
I think I commend him, I know I commend him for doing this such an outstanding job and checking each one of them. And secondly, it's only proper that on St. Patrick's Day we take an oath.
That's right.
Do I assume that's the motion to recommend John O'Sullivan? Moved by Governor Shravel, seconded by Governor Tripp. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you again, Governor Tripp. I really appreciate also your thoroughness. It gives us great comfort to know that all of the applicants who want to serve our university like this are getting their fair and thorough scrutiny. Thank you.
Okay, I believe, Madam Chairman, that concludes our business. We stand adjourned.
Just a quick comment, if I might. You also perhaps have been following the fact that right now we're also in the gubernatorial phase of the Board of Trustees, and the governor has begun to roll out, essentially one at a time, his new membership for the boards. I think I saw we're up to about 6 that have been done, so we're getting there. I would suspect we're 5, Mikey. So we've got 6 more to go, and I would say that we could expect that to begin again 1 at a time or 2 at a time, however they decide to do it very shortly. So it is our real hope that with that, Governor Tripp, with that nomination now filled and the governor now fulfilling those gubernatorial appointments, you should all be at a full complement very soon, and we hope within the next week or so.
Thank you very much, Governor Edwards. I think with that, we'll take another 5-minute break, and we'll start with the Strategic Planning Committee.